Good morning and welcome everyone to Spirit Matters, your daily Bhakti Center podcast, where we talk about spiritual topics in a practical way and learn how to bring them into our everyday life. We are here with our live studio audience from all over the world, all over the United States. Thank you all so much for being here. And we are here with co-host Achyuta Gopi and tri-host is now back in action. Dayal Garanga is here. Dayal, how are you doing
I
this
love
morning?
that I have I love that I have a title now. I've always wanted a title in this podcast, and now I got one.
You got one. It's tri-host.
Try host.
We should
That's
put
good.
executive in front of it, and then it makes it sound like really official.
Executive host. I feel like there needs to be some sort of like staff that comes with it, like a stick that I hold, or a cane or something. Try host. That's my contribution.
How are you doing
You know
this
what?
morning,
Now you know
DG?
I've been absent. I'm doing well. I've been busy, but good. Miss you guys, and happy to be here. Happy to be here. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much.
I think Doyle's connection is slightly spotty. Is it just me?
No, it is slightly spotty. I just wrote him a little message telling him that it's spotty. Well, while he figures that out, Achyuta Gopi, how are you?
I'm good. No complaints.
That's a good place to be. That
That's
is
right.
a
It's
good
sunny.
place to be.
We're good.
We're good. Awesome.
How are you?
Okay, so
people at?
yesterday we were how am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling proud of myself. I installed my air conditioner all by myself.
Hey.
Um, for those of you that follow me on Instagram, now my Instagram apparently is a do-it-yourself interior design home appliance rating Instagram. That is now what I do on Instagram, and I'm fine with it. It was actually so funny, and I think I'll tie this into the topic. So I was feeling quite accomplished because I didn't think that I was going to be able to do it. I'm not like a handy person. I'm not a tools person, as I said it. And I dropped some tools out the window. It was not going well. But I finally installed my AC in my window. And it was really interesting because I was feeling, yeah, I haven't been sharing so much on social media, and I was kind of feeling like silly and just like playful and like, I just want to share my journey with my air conditioner. And then someone messaged me, like someone who knows me but doesn't really like know me so much, like know me like personally. We just know each other, and we've met each other many times. We've talked many times, but I guess maybe like she sees me in like this spiritual way, like extra spiritual. And she said to me, she was like, it's so nice to see this side of you. It's like really refreshing and da 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 da. And I was like, oh, this is how I am like most of the time, actually. Like most of the time, I'm actually like this. And it was just interesting to me, because yesterday we were talking about spiritual compartmentalization. And we were talking about, Martha had this wonderful question, which I'll bring up in a sec. But it was interesting to me how, yeah, the mind has this tendency of like, this is how I am when I'm spiritual, and this is how I am when I'm not spiritual. This is how I present myself to people when I'm, being a devotee, and this is how it is when I'm not. And Martha so beautifully asked yesterday, like, yeah, a situation came up in her life, and she felt that she dealt with the situation not so spiritually, and then had certain feelings about it, felt bad about it. And we've all been there. But I guess I want to open up this question to you, Achyuta and Doyal, of like, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean when I don't deal with things spiritually, or when I do deal with things spiritually? Like, is everything spiritual? Is everything not spiritual? It's kind of a rhetorical question, but not really. I kind of want to hear what you all have to say.
I mean, Doyle, I feel like I've been talking for a long time. And I will talk.
Talk it. I haven't heard you in so long.
I think it's really interesting this point of the separation or seemingly separation between the spiritual and the mundane. or the spiritual and the secular. And we tend to put those parameters on things, and these are the parameters. This is spiritual, this is secular. And instead, when in the Bhakti tradition, we have situations where God is walking the earth. So then everything is spiritual, then, isn't it? Like what is not spiritual at that point? And even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am, everything is within me, but technically I'm kind of not in everything. Which then, of course, because we're like, well, if everything is spiritual, then why do like bad things happen? As though bad things can't be spiritual, as though
Mm,
bad things are going to be outside of the realm of spirituality. Um, and they're kind of not. The good, the bad, Krishna says it's like victory, defeat, infamy, fame, all of those things technically find themselves within Krishna. So everything can be spiritualized, depending upon our perspective. And then we have to really look at where we are, our perspective according to where we find ourselves. So how we are spiritual at the Bhakti Center might not be how we are spiritual at the corner store bodega, might not be how we are spiritual at the airport. And so there might be time, place, and circumstance for everything. And when we see spiritual people like Radhanath Swami or Sachinandan Swami, we see these people who have dedicated their lives to a spiritual cause. You can think, oh my gosh, they're just so spiritual all of the time. But they also make jokes. They also can be laid back. They also can be silly and fun. And then you think, oh my goodness, well, that's spiritual too. And I'm like, why do we have this idea that spiritual means you're always like this boring, straight and narrow, cut dry, just really dry persona. And that doesn't have to be it. Spirituality, like all of life, has highs, lows, mellows, rasas, tastes, relationships, all of these things. And so I think that the idea of what is spiritual and what is mundane really just has to do with our vision. Really
mm,
just has to do with, are we able to see Krishna in all of these aspects? Are we able to
mm,
see that Krishna has so many different kinds of relationships and mellows, and the conversations that he has with his friends? You look at Krishna book, and the cowherd boys spent a lot of their time finding caves in on a huge Govardhan Hill mountain. And when they'd find these caves, they'd go and it says that they would shout ill names into them. Basically, they're cursing into the caves to hear the echoes come back. And because Krishna was there, that was spiritual. And
mm,
so, when we get into this thing of like, well, that can't be spiritual. Well, who says? Why not? It depends on how genuine and authentic we're being.
That was a very spiritual answer.
yes.
There were two things that came to my mind. You asked the question that I thought was so perfect, which is just like, what is spiritual, and so many times we use words without really knowing what they mean for us, or at least not having a shared understanding with somebody else. We can get into arguments about, you know, spirituality or religion or God or faith, and we don't even realize that we're not even talking about the same thing. We're using the same word, but we're using it completely differently. And so you ask the question, what does it mean to be spiritual? And there were these two definitions of the word love came to my mind. One definition being love is everlasting forgiveness, and another definition that came to my mind was, that I heard from other people, is love is forever tries, forever tries. And so this idea of us, sometimes we put it black and white, like spiritual, not spiritual, good, bad, in the light, in the dark, you know. Um, and I think that, for us to realize where we sit on on a spectrum of becoming spiritual, of of practicing spirituality. And I think just, I wasn't there for Martha's question, but just the fact that its incident or situation came up, she responded in a particular way that caused her to reflect on it and ask, to what extent did my response demonstrate my spiritual values? That's spiritual. That itself is spiritual, because you are approaching life from a mindset of like, who am I as a spirit soul? Who is the other people from the spirit soul? What's the higher reality? And in the stumbling, fumbling, bumbling of all of that, you know, um, there was a number of times where Srila Prabhupada mentioned the idea of, you know, somebody was, Prabhupada would like to assess various philosophers' views on the world and compare them. And, obviously there were philosophers who weren't alive at his time, whether it was, Plato or Aristotle or more recent, Carl Jung or whoever it may be. And he would hear their philosophies and he would respond to them and discuss about them. And then one student asked, are these people, our various philosophers, are they God conscious? What's the level of their God consciousness? And Srila Prabhupada said, their sincerity is their God consciousness. And so, we may have different understandings of spirituality, or we may be able to function at various levels of quote unquote pure spiritual consciousness. But in one sense, the endeavor itself, wherever we land on that, of like getting it quote unquote right and perfect in every situation, or it's just like the fact that, I may externally look like a complete mess and I'm constantly messing it up. And it feels like every action I take is a mistake. It's just like a string of bad decisions, like whatever it looks like. But it's like, if I'm sense, it's because so many things that come up externally are without my control. Like sometimes how I even respond is just like a knee-jerk reaction sometimes. But my willingness and ability to sincerely reflect, assess, be willing to be corrected, be willing to self-evaluate and open myself up to lessons and growth, like that's spirituality. And that's beautiful. And that's, in my view, as valuable, if not more valuable, than just getting it right all the time, because there is no getting it right all the time. So that's my thought.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's why this man is the executive director of the Bhakti Center.
Haribo.
I don't know if you heard any of that. I just kept getting notifications that I just kept getting notifications that my internet is unstable. Yeah, and then I started getting notifications that my mind is unstable. Yeah, then I started getting notifications that my mind is unstable, and I was like, "How do they know that?" Apple is really, really figuring stuff out that I didn't even.
Can you imagine if it started giving you notifications like your mind is unstable?
Yeah, your mind is unstable. Do not make decisions at this time. Yeah, your heart is unstable. What? Yeah. Your spiritual connection is unstable. It's low.
I actually at one time had an app that like did Vedic astrology that would literally tell me, like, according to your chart, it's probably not a good time of day for you to make decisions. Like, it's a silent period. You should probably be chanting japa. And I was like, wow, goodness.
The app comes up. Go to sleep. Just go to sleep for a few days and wake up. Like don't do anything for the next 48 hours. Don't make any purchases. Don't make any decisions. Don't speak to anybody.
Yeah, literally, it was like silent period. They were only like 2-3 hours in the day. Like it was okay, but
somebody hacks the app.
Guys,
all of a sudden you should telling you what to do.
This sounds like something that
chains. This is also
no. I'm saying that this is something that I feel like I need. I need this app. Where do I find it? Sounds great. It's going to be a Spirit
Then you
Matters
find out
app.
Then you find out that Then you find out that Amazon bought the app. And you're like, oh no.
Oh.
Yeah. Martha said the
Okay, okay.
one thing
Let me
that
try.
gave me some comfort afterwards was seeing.
Mm.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But I really do like how it
How
feels
Connection.
much
when
it
I was.
bothered me
Oh.
because that meant I am more spiritual than I was. Yeah, meaning I'm a little closer to Krishna even when my ego slaps at me. Zoom had enough of me and was like, "You're done."
Well, I was gonna
I just
say,
read
yeah,
Martha's comment. That's all I did.
okay. I was just gonna say that, yeah, in response to Martha's comment, and you said this, Doyal, about how like if a bad situation or if a situation which I didn't act, quote unquote spiritual, is bringing me to a more sincere place of reflection, of self-assessment, of honesty, with who I am, then it was inherently a spiritual experience, and Achuta, you said this when you first commented on this topic of just like who said that bad things can't be spiritual, like who like made that up all of a sudden, you know and I think that a lot of times we've talked about this topic so many times, but it's such a good one, and that's why we keep on coming back to this of form versus the substance, and we're a lot of the times um, we're so engrossed in how things look or how I present to the world or how others are seeing me. Am I a failure or am I a success? Do I have do others look up to me or am I just a nobody? Like this kind of mentality, and it's like the more that we're stuck on that, the form of what it looks like, then the farther away we're going to be from sincerity and honesty, and if anything, I think that the spiritual path is a path of honesty and sincerity. It's like of being really just like honest with who I am, what I'm bringing to the table, what I can give, what my misgivings are, like what I need to work on. Like I think just being really aware of that is also like really powerful, because I think it's, and that's what's being taught in bhakti literatures, like in the bhakti teachings: be humble, be sincere. So as opposed to like coming into any situation being like, I know everything, I'm the best, I got this, I can do everything, da 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 da. It's like you'll be more pleasantly, you know what's the word I'm looking for, surprised when you do something that is and you find that it's very self-satisfying, even though you thought it wasn't going to be the right thing, or even if it seems like the bad thing, then you go through the thing and you realize like, wow, I'm actually kind of self-satisfied and content, like that somehow worked itself out and I'm at a deeper, more sincere place. Look at that, as opposed to almost like pushing against the grain, like trying and trying and doing, like, why isn't it going my way? I'm doing everything right, why isn't it going my way? Yeah, Dana, supposed to look like exactly.
Yeah. And I was, I was reading, and actually I was reading with my sister in Mahabharat recently. And sometimes we can think of like what is spiritual versus what is not spiritual. And then we look, well, if everything was spiritual, then we wouldn't have like hells or hellish, conditions or hellish planets even. And in bhakti, it's so much more nuanced than that. In fact, there is not just one hell, there are several levels and many, many different hellish planets and hellish conditions that then widen the scope of, like, okay, you think that that's spiritual, right? Okay, so then now get this. Now we think the good things keep you away from hellish conditions, the bad things will put you into greater hellish conditions. And Krishna tells Yudhishthira at one point, he says, well, Yudhishthira, you think that you're doing everything correctly. However, you're going to have to spend time in a hellish planet, for speaking the truth when lying would have been more beneficial for everyone. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. We need to read that again. There is a hellish condition, or a negative reaction for speaking the truth when lying actually would have been beneficial for everyone. And I was just like, okay, well, there you go. Like, I mean, at a certain point, what constitutes spirituality? Are we sincere? Are we doing harm to other people with even our truth? Is it something that is authentic? Is this something that brings me closer to Krishna? Is this something that Krishna desires for my life? And sometimes we can have those ideas like, well, how do I know what Krishna is desiring for my life? I'm like, we all know. You know it in your gut when it is actually something that resonates. You know it. You know, we all find ourselves in those situations where we're like, well, I really meditated on it, I prayed on it, and this is just this is the thing that really, Paramatma, in my heart, this is the thing that feels the rightest of things. And for Yudhishthira, I mean, he had Krishna telling him, like, no, do the things, bro, lie. And Yudhishthira was kind of hesitant, like, well, but lies are never good. And Krishna points out several instances where lying is totally acceptable and the right thing to do. And so he still hesitates, and he's like, look, bro, you were trying to tell the truth when lying would have been beneficial, and for that, there's a negative reaction. And I'm like, whoa, like, all of the things that we might have thought find different spaces, especially when we come in contact with spirituality and Krishna and all of these things. I really feel like it's something to be reassessed at every moment. There is no saying that, oh, Martha, the way that you responded was not spiritual. I can't say that. I can't make that judgment call. That actually ultimately is for you and Supersoul, Krishna and the heart. Your church can't make that decision. Even a guru can't always make that decision. At a certain point, you have to be able to have those conversations with your own Paramatma.
Beautiful. Thank you, Achyuta. That's like, I feel like you hit the nail on the head, as they say. It was really poignant. I think what I took most away from that is that like everything needs to be reassessed. You know, like we have this way of thinking of how things are supposed to be or supposed to look like, or what spirituality is supposed to be. And it's like when you read the sacred text, it's like, wait a minute, I was supposed to lie in that situation. You know, it's like, oh, okay. We are running fresh out of time, and apparently I'm the timekeeper now. So Dayal and Achyuta, think of your takeaways, but we're going to go to Kimberly, our taker awayer, our master taker awayer.
All right, so today we're taking away that everything can be spiritualized depending on our perspective and vision. Love is everlasting, forgiveness and forever tries, and our sincerity is our God consciousness.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Dayal, what are you taking away?
My takeaway is withholding judgment, because I think that, you know, the idea of something being spiritual, not spiritual, it's a judgment. And I think that by withholding judgment, I give space to not put things or people in a box, but allow for a broadening vision of reality. So just the idea for me is just to practice withholding judgment.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I love that. Achyuta, what are you taking away?
I feel like, you know, much the same. That is a really beautiful point. And it's like, you know, when they ask you to hold your applause till the end of whatever it is, I feel like I want to like hold the applause and hold the judgment, hold the whole thing till the end. Like let the thing play out first. Let me just see how this is gonna go before I put my conclusions on it. Because oftentimes what I've concluded I look back and I'm like, that's not what Krishna had in mind at all. I see. So I kind of want to hold my applause.
I always appreciate my applause in the beginning, middle, and end. But it's up to you,
Krishna.
up to you guys. Totally up to you.
Kimberly is applauding.
I got no
Emoji applaud. I'm also on that same mode of thought, and in terms of not judging others, and also like the self-judgments and self-criticisms that we have towards ourselves. I think that's really important, because this all stemmed from Martha's question of like, oh, I behaved in this way and it wasn't spiritual, or it wasn't, etc. And I find myself in a lot of mental places like that, where it's like, oh, it was supposed to be, but like this. So for me, I'm walking away with, just softening that self judgment, that sometimes that we all have, and we all do, and trying to practice self-love and compassion more, and seeing everything as spiritual. Okay, thank you all so much for your beautiful participation. It's so good to have our tri-host back in action. Thank you, Kimberly and Martha. Thank you, Anna and Lileshwari, Rachna and Vidya. Thank you, Rini and Dana and Martha, for your beautiful question yesterday. We will see you all tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you, Achyuta. Thank you, Dayal. Hari Bol. See you guys.